October 10th, 2025. Tonight, I am haunted by what I saw. Something so grotesque, so horrifying, that it will never leave my mind. This place is not merely old, not merely creaking walls and shadows. It is an abomination, alive, hungry, and dripping with darkness that seeps into every corner. It started when I saw him, James, staring into a corner where a shadow was thumping like a beating heart, pulsing with sickening rhythmic spasms. In that moment, I saw the flesh on his face ripple like it was melting or dissolving, softness giving way to raw, exposed muscle and jagged bone beneath. His eyes widened as if he wanted to scream but couldn't. Then the shadow moved, as dark as an oily ink spill, and coiled around his head. I watched in horror as it pressed into his skull, the darkness squeezing like icy, deadly tendrils. His eyes rolled back as his face contorted, his skin splitting open along the jaw, revealing raw, bloody tissue, flesh torn from bone. His mouth stretched into a silent scream, teeth bared and gnashing uselessly as the shadows seemed to suck out his screams, turning them into a muffled, grotesque intake of breath. Suddenly, his skull seemed to flatten under the shadows, weight cracking like rotten wood, then collapsing inward, his face bloodied, deforming grotesquely. His body twitched violently, limbs jerking in unnatural angles as if puppeteered by unseen malignant strings. Blood gushed from his nose and mouth, pooling on the cold floor, while his eyes stared blankly, completely vacant, mindless, possessed. I turned to run, but the hallway warped beneath my feet, elongating endlessly, the walls twisting and stretching into a nightmare maze. In the shadows, I saw entity-like shapes writhing, oozing along the shadow's surface, as if some living tar had spilled from the depths of hell. A dark, bubbling mass that slithered and spat forth like a viscous wound trying to burst. Then I saw her, a woman, her face a moonlit horror, her eyes wide with unnatural terror, her mouth stretched into a final scream. There was no sound, only the sickening wet sound of something thick and tar-like gushing from her face, a black plasma that oozed and oozed, pooling and steaming on the floor. Her skin had been peeled back, revealing sinew and bone like raw, meat exposed to the elements. Her lips were torn away, revealing a dark cavity where her tongue had been eaten, clean, precise, as if someone, or something, had sliced it out. And then I saw the creature emerge. It was hunched and misshapen, a mass of dark, oozing flesh with flailing, elongated limbs. Its face, a gaping maw filled with jagged, necrotic teeth, leaned toward her with reckless hunger. The shadow lunged, and I watched as it cracked her, chest open, plunging into her like a black, fleshy spear, tearing through her ribcage. Her screams, if they could be called that, were muffled by the darkness as her inside seemed to melt, pouring out messily, black and glistening like thick ink spilled on raw meat. In that moment, the entire corridor flooded with a sick, oily sludge, bubbling and clicking as it sought to claim everything. The walls oozed dark tendrils, writhing and groping like living things seeking flesh. I saw a shadow slip beneath her skin, something slipping inside her body, filling her, corrupting her from within. My breath caught in my throat as I felt a wet, slimy tentacle brush against my ankle. I looked down, faced with something monstrous and carnivorous, a thick appendage coated in tar and bristles, dragging itself toward me with relentless, maw-dark hunger. Its black, sodden tips flicked and clawed with jagged, bone-like barbs. It wanted to sink into me, to drown me in its darkness, just as it had with everything else. I fled blindly, battered by echoing whispers, dehumanized voices muffled by a thick curtain of black sludge, calling in languages I do not understand. Speaking of devouring an endless night, the walls seemed to bleed, dripping with some dark, thick substance, and shadows slid along the edges of my vision, closing in. Tonight, I saw true horrors, beasts born from pure darkness, feeding on flesh, blood, and terror. The shadows are alive. They are devouring everything. And I fear I am no longer human, only a trembling witness to what lurks beneath and beyond our understanding. If you find these words, be warned. Some shadows are not merely absence of light. They are ravenous things waiting patiently in the blackness, yearning to drag you into their eternal feast. I am trapped in this living nightmare, and I fear I am already succumbing, becoming part of that darkness, just another twisted shadow in their endless hunger. Tonight, I saw the true depths of horror. Beasts born from darkness itself, mouths filled with jagged, necrotic teeth that rip apart flesh without reason, with tongues like writhing worms. I watched a creature tear into a man, its maw opening impossibly wide, a chasm of blackness that swallowed everything, flesh, bone, blood, until he was no more than a broken, bloodied pile of surrender. His screams, muffled by the scent of rot and similar black ichor, echoed faintly in my mind. The shadows swirl, crawl and snap at the edges of my vision, eager to claim their next prey. I see them now, in every flickering corner, in every whispering dark. They take on forms, twisted, faceless masses of flesh and ooze, resembling nightmares incarnate. Their claws, long talon-like, coated in stale black blood, leave trails of cold filth across the walls as they reach, grasping, pulling, hungry for anything that breathes. In the faint shadows I glimpse them, appendages like rotting tentacles, slick with ichor, slithering and snaking toward me with relentless purpose. I can feel their wet, slimy touch brush against my skin, the texture like cold, greasy tar, eager to seep into my pores. Their whispers pierce my mind, promising agony, an eternity for what is left of my soul if I survive this. I am haunted by the horrid images, flesh torn, bones shattered, eyeless faces pressed against cracked glass, mouths stretched into silent screams, yet I hear the agonized noise of flesh being ripped apart, drawn from deep within. The sickening squelch of sinew and bone devoured, the black, oily substance, so thick it clumps and pools, has become their feeding ground. It roils and bubbles as if alive, seeking flesh, blood, and hope itself. Try as I might to escape, the hallways seem to warp and pulse like breathing wounds in a mutilated creature. The very fabric of this place trembles with a foul, organic life. I see shadows peel away from the walls, writhing and stretching into misshapen forms, some with torn faces and eyeless sockets. They glide toward me like predatory demons. I can feel the weight of their dark hunger pressing against my consciousness, clawing at the edges of my sanity. Tonight, I witnessed the unthinkable. The darkness isn't just a void, it's a thriving, monstrous thing that seeks to consume everything. These shadows, these horrors, they feast on pain, on fear, on the last fragments of hope. I know now. I am not merely trapped in a haunted place. I am trapped in a collective nightmare, a feast for the black, gnashing maw that lurks beneath this cursed structure. If anyone reads this, run. Run as far and as fast as you can. Some shadows do not just hide, they hunt, they wait, hungry and patient for the next soul foolish enough to enter their domain, and I fear I am already lost to them.